issues do Sudburyans think federal government should pay more attention to?
When I've been talking to people over the last months since January, is the threat of the Trump administration.
How important is it to maintain current federal government services such as seniors benefit, diet plan, childcare, and other benefits?
So for seniors, for example, the dental program is I've received the most calls about, where seniors were very grateful for the dental program.
And what specific strategies will you implement to ensure local industries remain competitive and resilient at the same time?
And people want to do business with Canada and more specifically with Sudbury. We have the critical minerals that the world wants. This is an opportunity for us to create generational wealth for the people of Sudbury.
Namaste, bonjour, and welcome to Beyond the Borders exclusive conversation with Sudbury's very own Viviane Lapointe, a champion for better future and a proven leader in Ottawa. Elected in 2021 with over 15,871 votes, representing a 34.5% mandate, is your Member of Parliament and serving as Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Official Languages and Associate Minister of Public Safety. Viviane, lifelong resident, Sudbury's advocate, grounded in community driven by service, has dedicated over 25 years to uplifting our community through initiatives in healthcare, mining, and economic development. Now running as the Liberal candidate for second term, she continues to be the strong voice of Sudbury in Ottawa. With the federal election on April 28, your vote is more than a ballot. It's your voice and your power. As outlined by election.ca, be sure to check your polling location, voter requirements, and exercise your right to choose the candidate who embodies progress, inclusion, and a resilient future for our community. So, ladies and gentlemen, stay with us as we dive deeper into Viviane's vision and the journey ahead for standing with Canada and building for Sudbury. This exclusive interview isn't just a conversation, it's a vital chapter in her campaign, a chance to hear firsthand how her past achievements and steady commitment will shape Sudbury's future. Please welcome Viviane, Sudbury's federal Liberal candidate for MP, a passionate advocate, a community leader, and a proud Sudburyan on Beyond the Borders. Welcome.
Thank you so much, and I'm so honored to be here today, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for your time. And before we get into anything and everything, I would like to go on, your recent community surveys. Based on your recent community survey, what issues are the Sudburyans concerned with, like cost of living, housing, healthcare, public safety, jobs, economy, environment, and climate change? I want to begin from there.
Yeah. I have to tell you that since we've begun now, we have knocked on close to 26,000 households all across Sudbury. So I've talked to a lot of people. And the top of mind issue, I would say, that people are concerned with is the cost of living.
Right.
It is really difficult. And whether I'm talking to seniors who are on fixed incomes, and all they want to do is be able to stay in their home. They want to live independently, they want that dignity, and the rising cost of everything, groceries and everything else, is just really placing a big challenge on them.
Absolutely.
I would say the second issue that I hear a lot is healthcare. People are really concerned that their healthcare system won't be there. They won't be able to access services when they need them. So I often hear that as well in our community.
We're going to talk more on that in a while. And you have asked another questions on your recent community survey. What issues do Sudburyans think federal government should pay more attention to?
So but most recently, what I want to say is that when I've been talking to people over the last months since January, is the threat of the Trump administration and the tariffs. People are frightened about what that will mean to Canada, to our economy, and even our sovereignty, as he talks about things such as making us the 51st state. So that really is of grave concern to many people that I talk to. And the federal government has a role to play there. And that's where I think Mark Carney, as a leader of the Liberal Party, is the right leader at the right time. He has great experience and knowledge of world economics. He was the governor of the Bank of Canada as well as for England. He knows, he has incredible contacts. He understands world economies, and is really the person who can lead Canada into ensuring we have a good, sound economy, as well as some good negotiations with the U.S. and with President Trump.
Absolutely. So next up was how important is it to maintain current federal government services such as seniors benefit, diet plan, childcare, and other benefits?
So when I talked about cost of living and how people are struggling, those programs are key to helping them. So for seniors, for example, the dental program is I've received the most calls about, where seniors were very grateful for the dental program. I talked to some seniors who told me they hadn't been to a dentist in over 10 years because they couldn't afford to go. And now with the dental program, they're saving $800 a year. When I talk to young couples, the Canada Child Benefit is a huge relief for them. We know that it's costly raising a family today. And I can tell you that there are 8,000 families right here in Sudbury that are receiving almost $7,000 every year thanks to the Canada Child Benefit. The other thing that's helping young families is the $10 a day childcare. That has been a game changer for many families. We know we also need to increase the number of daycare spots. There's long wait lists, and we are working on that with the province. But the $10 a day childcare is another way that we're helping people. Pharmacare is another one. For example, for seniors who are diabetic and need insulin, they can now access insulin for free. And that is something that is very important in maintaining their health and helping them with their pocketbooks.
All right. In addition to this, how will you ensure that the federal policies effectively respond to the specific needs of Sudbury residents?
So I think that in order to be a really good MP and to represent the people of Sudbury, you need to connect with them a lot. You need to understand what their issues are, and that then allows you to advocate for them properly when you're in Ottawa. That's why I've continued to knock on doors. I won the election in 2021, and I never stopped knocking on doors. Even when it's not election time, I'm connecting and talking to people. That's why I've been able to reach 26,000 households. So I would say that that's number one. The key thing is listening and what the issues are and what the concerns are. And then I go to Ottawa with that list that they give me, and that's what I fight for.
All right, okay. Given your emphasis on the need for strong leadership to navigate economic challenges, including potential U.S. trade policies and global economic shift, how does your campaign plan to bolster Sudbury's economy in the face of these external pressures? And what specific strategies will you implement to ensure local industries remain competitive and resilient at the same time?
So I'll talk first about the plan that our leader, Mark Carney, has set out for Canada nationally. And the first one is to improve the intertrade between provinces. So we know that there are huge opportunities for us to be doing trade amongst our provinces that we're not. And there are a lot of barriers that are set up. So now the premiers are coming to the table saying, yes, let's start doing business and trade amongst each other. And there's about $200 billion in opportunity in that. And Mark Carney has set a deadline for early July to remove those barriers. So now we'll see an increase in trade just amongst provinces. The other thing is we're going to create trade alliances with other countries so that we are less reliant on the United States.
Right.
So I think that's very important. And we know that we have a lot of the resources that the world wants, whether it's critical minerals, oil and gas, natural gas. Canada has a lot of that potential. When it comes specifically to Sudbury, I've touched upon it. Critical minerals is key. I just came back from the mining the conference that's held every year in Toronto in March, and there are over 30,000 delegates from across the world that come. And people want to do business with Canada and more specifically with Sudbury. We have the critical minerals that the world wants. This is an opportunity for us to create generational wealth for the people of Sudbury. I think the other key thing for Sudbury is to invest in our small and medium-sized businesses. When people say they work in the private sector, over 80% of them are working in a small business. Small businesses create good, viable jobs, they invest in their communities, and so it's very important that we as a federal government invest in our small and medium-sized enterprises, and I think that will be key.
Okay, so given your successful efforts in securing substantial federal investment for Sudbury's housing initiatives, such as the 73 millions for the Manitou project and the recent 28 million for wastewater infrastructure upgrades, enabling the construction of 3,300 new homes, how do you plan to continue addressing housing affordability, infrastructure development in Sudbury to meet the growing needs of the community?
So housing is so key. And I can tell you that affordable housing is something that we really need to expand here across Canada, and Sudbury is included in that. And so we have rolled out an ambitious housing plan where we're going to see the government step in and get into the business of actually building affordable homes. We know that private developers won't really, that's not of interest. And so there is a role for every level of government to play. The federal government will ensure that we are playing our role, and we're going to make some considerable investments in affordable housing in Sudbury. And that includes housing for seniors, again, who are on fixed income, and expanding those housing opportunities in our city.
We're going to talk more on that in a while. In your recent social media post, it's today, you highlighted the importance of experienced leadership versus career politicians. First, what is experience? What's the difference between experienced leadership and career politicians, as per you?
So it goes back to what I said about Mark Carney being the right leader at the right time. So he is the first person in over 400 years to be the governor of the Bank of England who is not from England. He is also the only person in the entire world to be the governor of bank of two different countries, Canada and England. No one else has ever been given those two roles. So that is the kind of credibility that we have in Mark Carney. That's the person who's now running to be the Prime Minister of Canada and to lead Canada in the negotiations with the US and in ensuring that we can grow our economy. So he has those types of credentials. He also has incredible contacts. So the moment he became Prime Minister, he went to Europe and he met with the President of France, he met with the Prime of England, as well as the King of England. So he has a reputation and contacts that will be extremely helpful to us as I need to negotiate new trade agreements with other countries. Pierre Poilievre, who's the leader of the Conservative Party, has been a member of Parliament his entire career. He has never held a job, not in the private sector or any other position. And so it is of grave concern in terms of what kind of experience and credentials that he has in order to lead us through this really, really important time. I will say that in this election, I have heard many people tell me that this is the most important election of their lifetime. And whether they're 80 years old, 50 years old, 30 years old, they are all saying the same thing. The most important election of their lifetime.
So, how does your track record as Sudbury's MP demonstrate the experience needed to address the city's current challenges and future opportunities?
So I have been fortunate to grow my career here in Sudbury. And I have a vast experience in development of mines, where I learned about the importance of the mining sector and northern development and many of the sectors within that, whether it be forestry, economic development that is specific to the north. I spent 20 years in the healthcare system, where it is very important to understand, because healthcare touches all of us. At one point or another, we all access healthcare. And so it was to and how it is. It also saw us grow from a small regional hospital to a full academic health sciences center. And I think Sudbury is poised to be a health hub center of excellence for Northern Ontario. We have a medical school, a university, a large teaching hospital, so we can really become that, as well as some really health research as well that's underway. So we can position ourselves and seize upon those that are before us. I also spent time at Community Living Greater Sudbury, which provides supports to people living with developmental disabilities. And there you really understand the importance of fostering inclusive communities, where no matter who our skin is, who we love, we are all welcomed into a community. And those are values that I hold very dear.
Absolutely. So during your first term, what have you done to improve access to federal programs like childcare subsidies or seniors pensions in Sudbury? And what new benefits or simpler access will you deliver if related?
So probably the biggest accomplishment in my time since I was an MP was successfully getting 10-day passport service. So right now, people who need their passport, we created a 10-day service for Sudbury. That didn't exist before, and I can tell you that there's a lot of people who are very grateful for that service. I think what's important is meeting with a lot of the not-for-profits or organizations where they tell us what it is they need. And then we can align them with what are some federal programs and funds and grants that they can apply to. And then when that application, then it's my job to chase that application down and ensure that it's successful and that they get the funding that they need. So there are so many projects that we've done across the city. Over $500 million in federal investments have been made in Sudbury since I became the MP in 2021.
Now I'm going to talk about mining and economic resilience. With your experience at the Ministry of Northern Development and Mines and your work on the Standing Committee for the Natural Resources, what specific federal policies will champion to modernize Sudbury's mining sector, jobs from automations, and ensure royalties directly benefit local communities?
Yeah. So I think it's important when we talk about mining that we go and think beyond just the mines and the critical minerals. Sudbury is actually a hub for mining excellence.
Right.
So mining innovation, mining tech, mining manufacturing. And we need to make the investments within that whole supply chain. And Sudbury already has that reputation. I mentioned the conference that I went to where there was 30,000. And Sudbury has a very sterling reputation. We have such advanced technologies when it comes to mining, and also our regreening efforts. So we are globally renowned for our greening efforts. We have many countries who come with a delegation to learn about how did we do that, and how did we get the support of all the levels of government and the community for advancing the mining sector as we have in Sudbury and in Northern Ontario as well. We still have a lot of work to do. We want to be able to accelerate new mining projects. It's taking too long to open mines. And so I know that the Minister of Natural Resources is committed to doing that. We are looking at many different ways we can do that, one of which is to help shepherd done one step at a time, but they can be working on many different steps of the mining opening process at the same time, and that'll accelerate timelines. That's just one example of what we can do to open mines up more quickly.
We have talked about healthcare accessibility already, but then also I have one more questions about healthcare. Your career includes building relationship with diverse communities in healthcare, as you already mentioned. How will you use that experience to address Sudbury's critical shortages of doctors and specialists? And what federal incentives will you push to retain healthcare workers in the North?
Yeah. So in 2024, the federal government increased the healthcare transfers to provinces. We increased it by over $3 billion. And so what we've done now is we are creating agreements with every province. And we reached our agreement with Ontario last year. And what we've done is with the increase in funding, we've attached conditions. So you'll get this extra money, but you need to do A, B, C, and D. And some of the conditions that we've identified is improving access to care, such as reducing surgical wait times, reducing times for diagnostic imaging, Also hiring more nurses and allied health professionals, and also graduating more physicians. We know that primary care especially, we have some physician gaps there. Many people here don't have a family doctor. So that is one of the conditions that we've made with the province, where we need to start increasing the size in our medical schools and graduating more physicians. Last year, specifically for here, the federal government announced funding for Northern Ontario School of Medicine, the NOSM, where we essentially doubled their classroom size. That will help a great deal. The other thing we're doing is increasing the scope of practice. So nurses, nurse practitioners, first assist, pharmacists, in their scope of practice. So that takes some of the burden off physicians, and it also helps people to care that they may need along the continuum.
Beautiful. Your work at Community Living Greater Sudbury emphasizes the collaborations. How will you leverage those lessons to ensure First Nations lead resources project on their lands, and finally resolve issues like boil water advisors in nearby Indigenous communities?
So our government and I personally remain committed to truth and reconciliation. It is a long journey that we all need to respect.
Yeah.
And there are many recommendations within that commission that still need to be met. So that is work that we are committed to and will continue to do so. The water, everyone should have access to safe water. There have been boil advisories removed, but they are not all removed. And so we need to continue to work in partnership with our Indigenous leaders, first and the chiefs, to ensure that they have that comfort level, because it is the first and chiefs who are remove the water boil advisory, not the government. We work with them,
Okay.
But only when they are assured does it then get removed.
So, as Associate Minister of Public Safety, what gaps have you identified in Sudbury's opioid crisis response, and how will your committee work on national defense translate to safer street here in Sudbury?
So we certainly have seen the devastation of the opioid crisis, and we've seen it here in Sudbury. At one point, we had the highest opioid-related death per capita in the province. And I would tell you that that is true of Northern Ontario. Timmins as well, Thunder Bay, we've seen our northern communities devastated by the opioid crisis. As a federal government, we have made investments directly into Sudbury in those services that provide help to people that are struggling, that are either unhoused or dealing with those addictions, and will continue to do so. But it is very important that the provincial government come to the table as well. And I would say that what we need to do is invest in those local solutions. Our local service providers know what is needed. They know where there are gaps, and they know where the most urgent need is. And it is working with them and funding those local resources and those solutions is where we will have the greatest impact on that.
The Parliament Secretary for Official Languages, what steps have you taken to protect Sudbury's Francophone services, and how will you safeguard them amid federal courts?
Yeah, I think it's very important that we not only protect our two official languages, but also our French language. I'm proud to say that Sudbury is one of 13 communauté accueil, which means that we are a welcoming community for French immigration. And we also just put in place a permanent Francophone immigration stream,
Right.
where we will see up to 42 openings, availabilities for newcomers to come to Canada that speak the French language. So that's very important. As we grow our community, we want to make sure that we grow a welcoming and diverse community here in Sudbury.
All right. So you won in 2021 by mobilizing 34.5% of voters. As Parliament Secretary and committee member, if you have to name 3 measurable wins for Sudbury that justify a second term.
Well, I would say that first, it is such an honor to serve, and it is a privilege to be chosen. But anyone who knows me knows I'm about the work. And invested in Sudbury speaks to the work that I've done. And I would say, I think the housing investments of over $130 million is something that has brought considerable advantages to Sudbury. And in fact, the project Manitou that you mentioned earlier is one of the housing projects underway in Ontario, and it's happening right here in Sudbury. So the federal investments are new housing builds that we're seeing all across our city. And then also the investments that we've made in research and development, because that will truly lead to some great companies and wealth for Sudbury and good paying jobs. And it's vital that we make those investments.
All right, coming to your agendas, what are your key agendas for this term, and how do you plan to fulfill your promises if elected?
So for this particular election, I'm very much focused on helping people, especially around the cost of living, and working with our leader, Mark Carney, in ensuring that Sudbury has a large role to play in the future that Mark Carney wants to shape for Canada. When we talk about wanting to be an energy power, when we talk about wanting to create new alliances, and new is key to that. And it will be my job to make sure that Sudbury is at the forefront of Canada's goals towards that.
So for immigrants who have recently gained their Canadian citizenship and may not know much about local politics or the politics here in Canada, or the first-time voters who may be unsure about the candidate or the party, what would you say to help them understand why they should trust you and the Liberal with their votes this election?
So I agree with what people have told me. I do believe that this is one of the most important elections of our lifetime. Our very sovereignty is at stake. Dealing with the Trump administration will take very skilled and knowledgeable leadership. And that is what we have in Mark Carney. That is the leader that we need to get behind. We are fortunate that he has decided to take this mantle on. He is the Prime Minister that we need at this time. He's the right leader at the right time, and I am proud to stand with him as well.
Almost at the end. As Sudbury's MPs, you have supported immigration programs like the RCIP, Rural Community Immigration Pilot, and the Community Pilot FCIP to address labor shortages and promote economic growth. How do you plan to ensure that these initiatives continue to benefit newcomers and the local economy? And what measures will you take to support their long-term success in Sudbury?
That too is one of the accomplishments that I'm very proud of. The Northern Immigration Program was a pilot program. We were able to make it permanent last year, and that took a lot of advocacy. I think the Minister of Immigration, every time he saw me, he would say, "Okay, Viviane, we're working on it." But I said it needs to be permanent because it is key to growing the population in Sudbury and Northern Ontario. And we were successful in doing that. I find that the program is so, it newly arrived Canadians, they arrive to place. And it helps the employers who have a gap in skills that they need covered. And so it is a win-win, and it's a win for our community and a win for the city. It is a very successful program, and I'm glad to see that it's become permanent.
All right, almost at the end. This is my last questions to you. What's your message to the voters about why they should trust you with another term, or why they should re-elect you for this term?
I want voters to know that I will work hard for them, and that I am also a very good listener. I think that that is what makes a member of Parliament successful, is knowing and understanding what the priorities and what the issues and what the concerns are of their riding. And I think you can only do that by being out in your riding, meeting with people and talking with as many people as possible. And that is my commitment.
Thank you so much for your time. Before we leave, do you want to say anything to our audience?
I just want to thank you again. I have greatly enjoyed this conversation, and I hope your viewers do as well.
Thank you so much, and all the best with your second term. We want you next time too, and we're gonna have your conversation live on radio after your victory. All the best.
Thank you so much.